Welcome back to Electrified Reviews. My name is Mitch, and this is the Morph 2-in-1 e-bike slash other thing that we'll get to later from Freebeat. Now, we're gonna jump into some of the main specs here, kind of right off the bat, and then we'll talk about some of my experiences, and then we will do the ride test, the outdoor ride test, and the indoor ride test. Spoilers. So let's get into it. First and foremost, this thing has got a beefy 750 watt motor here, and though it is not super torquey on the low end, it gets up to speed very well. So it has a very sort of linear power curve in the sense that, you know, you start at 0 and it goes all the way up to the top speed, which is 20 miles per hour, and it gets there pretty much with the same consistency across the whole speed range. So if you're somebody who wants some low end torque, it's not really here, but it does get up to the top speed in a reasonable amount of time, and it feels very powerful. You're kind of taking off and it just keeps going, and we'll demonstrate that a little bit more in the ride test. Not super loud, very on par with a lot of the 750s that we've tested in the past, so not a big deal there. The battery we've got here is lockable and removable. Go ahead and snag this key. Let me turn it off. Here's the display. First thing we're gonna do is unlock it right here. Boom. You see you get a little bit of a depression there, and then pull this back, and then we should be able to do it with my right hand, pop this out. Now we've got access to the battery underneath, so we've got a nice little cover here, which is nice for a couple reasons, and I'll demonstrate those in a second. So go ahead and unlock it, pull the battery out, and then we got a secondary lock here. So there's lots of different locking mechanisms keeping this battery in here, and it's in here really well. Like, it fits into this frame very, very well. So let's go ahead and pop this out. Now you can see we've got, you know, our innards there. Now this battery is, I believe it's 720 watt hours, 712 watt hours. So it's 48 volt, 15 amp hours, and a pretty nice battery here. So go ahead, and we've got this little checker we can use here. So as you can see, we've got all bars lit up here because this thing is fully charged, guys. So yeah, cool little battery. It's a nice form factor, cool charger as well, kind of a different style than what we're used to seeing. Now, I'd mentioned the battery cover, and here's the cool part about it, is we can put this like this, and boom. Now, if you're gonna transport this, you don't have the weight of the battery in here, but everything in here is still protected. So something that's kind of similar to a lot of the Bosch battery systems that we've tested in the past. They've got the cover, you take the cover off, you can remove the battery, you can put the cover back on. And there's a lot of people, you know, a couple different brands like Himaway and Electric and things like that, where people actually 3D print covers for here. So it won't cover the whole thing, but having the full cover, I think, is really a pretty sweet deal. Get that thing in here and boom, that's not going anywhere. It's got its own locking mechanism. Honestly, it's pretty dope. So go ahead and throw the battery back in there. Just seat that in the bottom, slide it back in, clip, 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 boom. You don't actually need the key to put this thing back in, which is nice. There's a lot of bikes out there where you've got to get the battery, unlock it, put it in, then lock it again, and now we're just locked in and ready to roll. So put this cover back on. Boom. There you go. So battery system here, very nice. Big fan of that. Now let's go ahead and move on to the display. Get the battery back on. We'll turn it on here. Let me see if you can see that in the GoPro. Not terrible. It's kind of, so I'm using my glasses and I can tell it's kind of polarized here towards the edges, so it kind of makes it look a little bit weird. I'm trying to find a good angle for us here. All right, so now this is in kilometers per hour. Pretty sure that you can adjust that in the app. We don't have the app connected to it just yet. We'll get into that when we do the inside ride test, because we're going to need it for that. It's going to tell us a couple things here. It's going to tell us our speed, our assistance level. There's 3. So we got 0, 1, 2, 3. And tell us our battery life, trip distance. We can cycle through that. Total, trip total, trip total. And that's all we need there. If we press and hold the plus button here, that's going to turn on the light. Or actually, I guess the light was on, so that's why we couldn't see it very well. And then our light is actually mounted way up here. Oh, it's not on. There we go. So it's light up here. Now, this isn't a terribly bright light, but it's pretty decent. And the fact that it's mounted up high on the handlebars is something that I really like. You know, when cars are driving down the road, they're used to looking about that height for other cars, right? So when you bring your light a little bit higher, it gives you a better angle to spread your light out if you're kind of looking in front of you here. But then also, this is just where cars are used to looking. So pretty cool that we've got it mounted up here, and you know, you can adjust it, tighten it up. It's a little loose right now, probably something I could go through and adjust that and make it a little bit tighter. The brakes we have here are Logan hydraulic brakes. Now these brakes, right out the box, it took probably about a mile and doing some braking stuff for them to, I guess, maybe like lock in, because at first I was like, oh, I gotta put a lot of pressure, it's not stopping really good. But after you do a little bit of riding, you stop a little bit, they just get better and better. So now they're tuned in pretty well. So big fan of hydraulic brakes on bikes, especially bikes that go 20 miles per hour and bikes that are a little bit bigger. Now this thing doesn't weigh a whole lot compared to some of these other big bikes like this, and I'll have that, you know, exact description on screen. But really, it's a pretty manageable bike. Got a cool profile to it. You see got a nice little slope on the top tube there, and it looks pretty cool. Nothing on this bike really stands out as being out of place. Oftentimes with bikes, it's like, oh, that kind of doesn't make sense, or, you know, something. But with this one, everything seems to be kind of what we would expect. Now, if we're looking to make it even a little bit sleeker, we could probably replace this SIS index shifter with some trigger shifters. And, you know, that's just a choice. That's something that's pretty easy to swap out yourself if you wanted to do that. But, you know, the SIS index shifter is easy to use and, you know, not a horrible choice for this type of bike. But, you know, I'm just talking about, like, if we want to make it even sleeker, we get rid of that, because that's the only silver piece if you're not going to count some of these bolts and stuff. So if we, you know, made these bolts black and we replace this with some trigger shifters, or even the black version of this would be pretty cool. Everything would just kind of be tied together a little bit, and that's me getting kind of nitpicky with the looks here. And one thing you might have noticed is this cable that we don't see on, well, we don't see that on any other e-bikes. And so it's coming out of the frame here, and it's connected to the saddle. And what this does is detects pressure on the saddle. And it's not important for when you're riding around like an e-bike, but when you get it inside and you prop it up and you're doing some indoor riding, then that is something that's going to come into place. If you guys have ever done the spin class or something like that, you know at certain times you want to get off the saddle. And the way it works here is, you know, you get bonus points, or you're following the program. It can tell that you're standing up, which is a cool feature to see, and something we don't see on regular e-bikes at all. It doesn't come with racks or fenders, but does have places to mount that. We've got some nice mounting points for the fenders up here, and we've also got our support arm attachments down there, and a spot for a rack. And then we've also got all of the things that we need to put on a rear fender. So if you're looking at this bike like, oh, I want fenders on it, it is something you can get and add to the bike. It doesn't come with it standard, or at least didn't come with my review unit. We've got a nice power plug thing here. Looks like it's pretty well sealed. I say that and then it won't go back in. There you go. Okay, it is pretty well sealed. Don't let me fool you here. And that's nice because this thing isn't plugged into the battery. So with some of these removable batteries, especially when we have sort of the top tube hidden batteries, you know, this will plug into the charger itself or into the charge port here. I mean, if you pull it out and you don't remove that, you can bend that and you can, you know, break these off, but it's not attached to it. So that is kind of nice. Yeah, all in all, it is really a pretty sleek bike. And it's always interesting to me when a new company comes out with the bike. It's like, oh, how well is it done? You know, you can see some of the welds in a couple of spots, but if you look up at the front, like, this is very clean. So a majority of people that would see this bike would see like the front here, they're very clean, can't see any of these welds, and that's pretty nice, though it doesn't really extend down here to a couple of the major welds in the frame. But for the most part, looks pretty sleek. Back in the back, so we talked about the shifter up here, Shimano SIS index shifter, 7 speeds, and in the back we've got our Shimano turning derailleur, and we've got a little directional pulley business right here, which is kind of an extra feature they don't see on all of the Shimano turnies. So this might be a slightly different version, but yeah, it just seems a little bit more robust. Shifting wise, works really well. 7 gears, as we mentioned. So as a traditional bike, if you have to ride it around, not terribly horrible to pedal. And as you guys know, with e-bikes, they are a bit heavier, so sometimes they can be terribly horrible, but this one, it's not. So that is nice. Up in the front, we've got our suspension fork. We do have preload and lockout adjustments here, which is nice. Sometimes on some of these cheaper e-bikes, we don't get any adjustments, and the fact that we can adjust it to, you know, suit our ride is pretty nice. Tires, Kendas, Not really much to complain about. It would be cool to see some sidewall reflective stripes on there, just as like an added safety bonus. And we don't have a rear light, so that would be something to see. That would be pretty cool if we had an integrated rear light. There's plenty of aftermarket options you could get to stay safe, but we do like to see when they include that with the bike themselves. I also don't see any attachment points or plugs down here ready to plug into a, if there was one mounted to the rear rack here, but that might be an option as well, or definitely something for Freebeat to look at in future versions of the bike. Grips up here wise, we do have these, we're used to seeing these kind of faux leather ergonomic grips. These ones do move a little bit, and that's one of the main issues with this style of grip, is that, I'm sure they're cheaper because we see them on a lot of bikes, so it probably makes a lot of sense for the P&L bottom line stuff when you're developing a bike. But at the end of the day, it is the main connection point you have with the bike, and we really do like to see locking mechanisms, at least one. If we had one here at the end, then this thing wouldn't move at all, and it is moving just a little bit. Go around to the other side, and this one's going to move a little bit as well. Now it is hot. It's like 89 degrees out here already at 10 o'clock in the morning, but that's Texas. And as these do heat up, they do tend to move a little bit more. So if I was keeping this bike long term, really the only thing I think I would swap out, if I was going for sleekness, might swap out this or get the black version. But otherwise, it'd probably just be the grips. Otherwise, brakes work well. The front light's decent. I like the saddle. The saddle's pretty comfortable for me. And as you guys know, with saddles, it's all about fitting the saddle to your seat bones. So this might not be perfect for you, but this is something that would be easy to swap out if you wanted to do that. Now you do lose some of the features for the indoor riding stuff if you're doing, sort of like the Peloton style riding. But if you are out here riding around and, that's not really a huge deal to you, it's still a decent bike at a decent price. And so swapping out the saddle wouldn't be an issue. Pedals here, which is another thing that I mainly mentioned about swapping out. Pretty decent. We got these, larger Well-Go platform pedals, a little bit of grip here as well. So I'm a pretty big fan of these. They work well, and and they're black, so they match them with the bike. So all in all, big fan of what they have going on here. Going back to the brakes really quick, we do have 180 millimeter rotors, I believe, on the front and rear. You can see we got the little 180 right there. For some reason, they look a little bit bigger than 180s. I'm not sure what that is, must just be my perception, but we do have the 180 stamped here and 180s in the front. So that's what you get, 180 mils on there. Plenty to grab onto. Like I mentioned, the brakes just needed to be worked in a little bit, and then they're working really well. So that is pretty much it for the specs of the bike. Let's go ahead and do our outdoor riding test, and we'll get into the indoor riding test here. We'll get the app set up, and I'll show you guys what that looks like when you're using it set up in Peloton mode or indoor riding mode. All right, so we are outside for the outside riding test portion, and it's kind of silly that I have to keep saying outdoor riding versus indoor riding, but with this bike it is a little bit special in that sense. So we've got it in pedal assist level 0. Let's go ahead and just pedal this like it was a traditional bike. So 1 really is a decent pedaling here. Go to 2, nice good shifts. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So all but that last gear was a paused just a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in pedal assist level 1. Use the throttle here. Well, 1's not really cutting from. Let's do 2. And then we'll get into pedal assist level 3 here. Now we're doing just the throttle. There's a little bit of rattling noise. It's actually this shifter here, which is interesting. I don't think I've seen a Shimano shifter vibrate like that before. We're actually going above 20 miles per hour now, so we are able to hit a higher top speed with just the throttle. Now those brakes, working really well. So the only thing that's probably a downside to the throttle here is that we are limited by our level of pedal assist. Let's go through here. Now this is a fat tire bike, so I would be remiss if we didn't take it off-roading at least a little bit here. Now we're still doing throttle only, handling itself pretty well. Now throttle only, struggling a little bit on some of these hills. Let's go ahead and put it into third gear. Let's go ahead and avoid the ramp. Now from a handling perspective, handles really well in this sort of terrain. Now the rake angle here, or our front head tube angle here, it's a little bit up and down, but what's interesting to me is that usually when that happens to these fat tires, they tend to grip a little too much, and so you kind of almost have to push out of turns. But these tires aren't doing that. So I'm not exactly sure why they are not, but it is nice that they aren't. Because yeah, that's usually sort of an unfortunate thing about those straight up and down head tube angles. All right, let's see. We're going to go ahead and put it into first gear. I'm going to hit this gnarly bit over here. Handles it really well. You pedal out of it pretty easily. And we are back to civilization. Now me, I'm kind of a fan of having the throttle be able to go to that top speed of 20 miles per hour. But in some places, they do want to see a cutoff there at 20 miles per hour, so just something to note. Let's go ahead and test these brakes out. Start going down here, and then brake in. Go ahead and hit this throttle only. A little bit of a head start here on the speed. You got it, you got it, you got it. So close. So close. So just throttle only. Not quite making it up our insane incline here. Let's go ahead and do some pedaling. See if that doesn't change the game here. Now if we're doing pedal assist, I'm gonna come up here, and we're not gonna get too much speed going up into this thing. Pedal up. Still is struggling quite a bit. So is this thing ready for hill climbs? No, not necessarily. But if you're willing to put in a little bit of effort, the gear range we have here does make it a lot more reasonable to hit some of these hills. Now from a ghost pedaling perspective, we do get a little bit of that right at about that 21, 22 mile an hour mark. So as far as being efficiently geared, not necessarily there, but on the low end, you know, like that 1 to 3 gear ratio, it is nice for those lower speeds, and if we have any sort of inclines like we've been hitting. So definitely it would be cool to see a larger gearing on the front, gives us a different gear ratio, and that way we don't get the ghost pedaling. Okay, about 32, I'm pedaling pretty quick. Rider. So we're going to hit a stop up here, and then we will again, easy to skid to a halt here. Now let's go ahead and hit our top speed, see how long it takes us with our bike here. Let's start pedaling. We're in 7. Got a half rotation there, and we start getting the pedal assist. Like I mentioned, not super torquey on the low end, but it does start to pick up, and once it starts to pick up, it really doesn't stop until we hit that top speed. Again, right about that 22, 23 mile per hour mark, I'm getting to the ghost pedaling, so I'm able to do this by just sort of keeping the pedals rotating. Differential-wise, it is pretty comfortable. It seems like there's some good geometry. I've got a good pedal geometry going on, and I'm still able to stop and put my feet on the ground, which you don't often see that nailing that with these fat tire bikes. Usually they're a little bit tall when you have a good pedal geometry. We are cruising. Go ahead and do another brake test up here. Pretty much at top speed. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. You guys know me, I love doing a little skidding. Love doing a little skidding. Oh yeah. I feel like John Wick sometimes. Just skidding into corners, going out of them. Man, it is a heck of a lot of fun. Now, we're kind of evaluating this as an e-bike, right? But there is another little secret about this bike, a little extra feature, and that is going to bring us to our next section, which is going to be our indoor ride test. So let's head there now. Alright guys, now we are inside of Power On e-bikes here, lots of other bikes, but we're here for our indoor riding test. We do an outdoor riding test, of course, but now it's time to do our indoor riding test, and we're going to do that with the help of this app. We've got this nice little stand here. The stand actually works really easy to get the bike in and out, which is nice. You know, whenever e-bike companies start adding different sort of non-e-bike contraptions, it gets a little bit weird sometimes, but this one, pretty flawless, great stand, very sturdy, nice easy way to put it on there. So yeah, I like that aspect of it quite a bit actually. So like I said, we're going to be using this app. This is the Freebeat app here. Now it looks a little rainbowy on screen, but it doesn't look like that in real life. So let's go ahead and connect the bike. So we're going to do that, connect the device. Boom, it's going to find it right here. Find it so it's not rainbowy for you guys. Connect device. Boom, and we're good to go. So this is going to be our outdoor cycling. We're going to go switch it to indoor. So in indoor, we've got a couple things. We've got studio class we can do, with the rhythm game, we've got some scenic rides. I'm considering doing the rhythm game, and we could do some scenic rides and see how that turns out. So let's do that. Got to mount it on my cheap little mount up here. Well, I guess I gotta maybe the app doesn't turn. Let me see. Let's try it. Do the rhythm game. There we go. Some nice little, let's see. Okay, that's kind of fun. So pretty sturdy, pretty stable. Look at this, I'm getting this 40 combo while I'm talking about the bike. So yeah, pretty comfortable. You could just mount your phone right here, or if you had a TV, you could cast it to your TV. That would also be a pretty cool thing. Very comfortable, like I said, very sturdy. I mean, look at me, I'm not really moving at all. This is unbelievable, guys. So yeah, so now we're cruising here. Notice how many calories we're burning, what our cadence is. On beat, percentage 94%. Pretty good. So yeah, so this is pretty sweet. Not too shabby at all. Now I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how to stop it. So if you stop, it'll just say, hey, start pedaling. And I couldn't figure out how the heck to get out of the app. So I'm gonna do this, maybe we'll speed this part up a little bit. And then once this is done, we'll check out some of the other features on the app here. Alright, so I figured out how to get out of the rhythm game because the next song started playing and I was like, oh, okay, I just wanted to do one. Let's go ahead and let's do scenic rides. Let's see what that looks like. Where do we want to go? Country ride. Let's do the valley ride. Let's see what this looks like. Find your beat. All right, we're just nice and cruising. Now again, you know, having it on the phone, kind of cool. But if you had this on a projector or a big screen TV, you'd really feel like you were, you know, riding in the places. Now what I'm curious is, I wonder if I go faster, if it'll go faster. Oh, definitely. That's sweet. Now what we need to do is, we need to just go back here. Yeah, I know, I did so great. Finish the workout. Let's see. We need to adjust the resistance. Okay, so I figured out how to adjust the resistance here. There's a little auto resistance button under here. Click this, and this is our resistance. So you can turn auto on, or you can adjust it. Right now it's about 50%, and definitely is a lot harder. Let's just go up to, wow, that is tough. Well, which is nice because then it makes standing very stable. So if you want to stand up and get a workout, again, it's still super, yeah, it's not moving around at all, but that's too high. Trying to pedal, you know what I'm saying? Oh, there we go. Oh, and I figured out how to go back. That's how you do it. So guys, that's quite a bit of fun. Like I said, it's cool that we have it on the phone. If we had a big screen TV here, that might be a little cooler. One of the other features is this guy right here, which is a pressure sensitive part of the saddle. So when you're doing certain classes, they'll be like, all right, now stand up, and then you stand up and it's gonna actually sense that you're off the bike. So you can't cheat, all right? And guys, I think that's gonna do it for our review of the Morph 2-in-1 from Freebeat. If you guys have any questions for me, let me know down in the comments below. And if you guys wanna check out Freebeat and all that stuff, I'll have a link to them as well. Thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you on the next one.